What is up, everybody? It is Kyle from the Offsetting Opinions channel. Today, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl, more specifically the halftime show. And everything I've been talking about on this channel and some of the breadcrumbs I've been kind of pouring out in the way that I view things kind of came to fruition a little bit last night. And you kind of get a dose of some of the things that I see from my worldview. And if you become cognitive of it and you become aware what's going to happen and you can kind of see it happen in real time, it's kind of like reaffirms your belief on the things that's happening in this country and how divided we are. So first, I understand there's always been differing like halftime shows and things like that, but I mean, you had your Bad Bunny one, which is part of the network as and the real Super Bowl halftime show, and then Turning Point USA had theirs, which was hosted by Erica Kirk, and then had artists like Kid Rock, Carrie Underwood. There was a couple other country artists, and even before that halftime show, either halftime show was put out and in performances were starting and things like that, you can kind of see that like some of these narratives that were getting pushed to kind of almost like coerce people to watch their halftime show, right? So it was kind of like this culture war that was happening before the halftime show even started. And I mean, Bad Bunny is an American. Let's be very clear about that. He is an American. Puerto Rico is part of the one of it's a territory of America. And so technically, while they don't have the voting rights of Americans, they do have American citizenship and things like that. And then you also on the other side, it's more your Kid Rocks and some of those other country artists, which it seemed like it was like Democrat versus Republican. And it looked like the people on the left were really kind of gaslighting and calling Kid Rock a pedophile, but for some stuff that he used to do back in the day, or some lyrics in his songs that he used to do back in the day, which again, fair. I'm not going to, go ahead and try and defend Kid Rock for any reason. But to associate anybody that watched that halftime show as racist, as just because they don't agree with, hey, we're building culture here, and I get that. Like you watch Bad Bunny and you want to understand and experience their culture, that's your prerogative, and I think that's a good thing. And we'll get to the messaging behind both in a minute, but getting back to like if you watch this halftime show, it's the headliner is a known pedo, a kid diddler, whatever you want to say. I find that kind of ironic because if you look at who the person that was conducting the halftime show and the company that owned the rights for, the production and finding the artists and things like that was Jay-Z. And we all know Jay-Z's in the Epstein files. We all know Jay-Z was a good friend of Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, however you want to go by him. But you don't see any outrage or outcry about that. You're supporting, someone who's a known pedo. Okay, that's well and good, but in watching the halftime show, I don't say like number one, is Kid Rock a known pedo? Well, you can't prove that. I mean, you can look at the breadcrumbs and create your own opinion and your own thoughts on it. Sure, I'm not going to dismiss that. His lyrics are very suggestive, and I think you can't dismiss that. However, going over to the Jay-Z side, I think there's more incriminating evidence there. There's words and there's actions and people you're surrounding yourself with. And I think on both sides, it's kind of forthcoming, like, hey, you're defending this side but attacking this side, and it's kind of the same for the other side. You're defending this side and attacking that side, and both sides have people they're defending that are literally on these lists and have these lyrics, and it's kind of crazy just because I think they're trying to cry wolf and create this narrative without really looking into the fine details of like, okay, if I'm watching this halftime show and it's good and you want to watch it for the messaging and things like that, I'm with you. I get that. But if you're not going to support one artist while dismissing the other side's, whatever the be the network, the artists, whatever the situation is, you're really not doing yourself the service by understanding the facts. And like, you're looking kind of like a hypocrite, in my opinion. I personally didn't watch either. I kind of muted the Bad Bunny stuff just because I prefer to listen to an English speaking, I want to hear the message. I want to hear the words that you have to say. I want to hear like the empowerment and things like that from that. And I wouldn't get that in watching someone that's speaking Spanish. And I think that's fine. If that's you mute it, you go on about your day and you just leave it alone. Right. I didn't watch the other halftime show either. I kind of just wanted to remove myself from the situation and look at it from an outsider's perspective. And just the second those halftime shows were done, it was like your social media they were at war with each other. We're talking about viewers. We're talking about narrative. It was like you go down this rabbit hole before to try and like get people to watch your side and how dare you and in the culture and you need to watch this because this and it's just like this other side has people that are listen to the lyrics of Kid Rock and they're pushing these narratives. And even after, like, how could you defend somebody like that? That this is someone that listen to their lyrics and it's like, okay, let's break the lyrics part of it down. Okay, do you listen to rap? Do you listen to some of the stuff that these people say in their songs? They're talking about being misogynistic. They're talking about killing people. They're talking about raping people. They're talking about like, if you listen to the messaging of what rap and that culture, not all rap. I'm going to be very, very forthcoming with you. Not all rap is bad. There are some artists out there who, you know, they have a good flow. They have the beats great. The message is, I mean, it's not the greatest message, but it doesn't really placate to like violence or sexual assault or anything like that. But there's a lot of artists that I can bet you I could find where they'll be like, yeah, that's a great artist, and it's like, okay, so why is that okay but this not okay? And we're really cherry picking about the messaging behind some of that, especially when we're trying to get aggressive and trying to like win our argument, and you don't even realize that you're sitting there talking about Kid Rock, which again, fair, but going back to like rap and some of the disgusting lyrics that are in those, and then they'll be like, well, that's art. You don't understand. And it's just like, okay, do you understand like what the message behind this is? And like once you break down the lyrics and like see how heinous it is, uh, I think you can't really defend the messaging part of it. But okay, I digress. I can understand like people don't like Turning Point USA. They don't like Charlie Kirk, and they don't like the Republicans having their own platform and their own channel and their own halftime show. And fine, whatever. Like you see it as the other side, you see it as the enemy, which I think that inherently is a dangerous thing to do, is seeing as other Americans who have differing political beliefs as the enemy. And I think that needs to be addressed at some point as well. But you can't sit there and tell people they can't go watch an artist, right? I think most of Americans that were going and tuning into that is because they're not familiar with Bad Bunny's language, right? So they don't understand the lyrics, so they want to go over to and watch something that's more them. Maybe they're entertaining people, and some of those people don't know Spanish, so they just put something on the TV that's more pleasant to listen to in their opinion. And you can't really shun those people for tuning into something that more fits their vibe. And then going into Bad Bunny, I don't think from the other side of the people that were tuning into Turning Point and attacking the Bad Bunny stuff. Number one, I think the messaging for Bad Bunny, like I'm fine with it. I think like the performance, it's whatever. I didn't really watch it too much. Again, I was just kind of engulfed in like watching these narratives unfold on social media because I'm really trying to do the research and like understand how the internet works and understand how people react and how they get the information so quickly and these narratives they push and how everything leads into it. Because if you take a step back, I'm like, okay, let's see how they like the masses kind of before these halftime shows, like everything leading up to it, and then just the bomb that gets set up after the bomb that gets set off, excuse me, after the halftime show, and how the social media, how that kind of placates into post performance and the narratives that people are pushing. And it's just like, oh my God, why do people have to have an opinion immediately? Why do people have to jump down people's throats? Why do people not do all their research before they like, here's an example, right? I posted my thoughts on it. I think I was spot on. I was more moderate take. I was like, okay, you have the message of Bad Bunny was combat hate with love, right? And not even 20 minutes later, the people that were, watching Bad Bunny and defending it all the way up to that point started attacking people on the other side, calling out like Kid Rock and, trying to like downplay this other halftime show and being hateful toward this other group of people. And it's like you completely miss this message. And I feel like they feel like they're virtuous and they're self-righteous and they think that their worldview is right and that they are allowed to be hateful because everybody doesn't share their opinion. And that's where like as you kind of take a step back from politics and you look at it from the outside looking in and you try to have a more moderate take and see the flaws on both sides, you really kind of get the full picture on like, holy Jesus, like how did I not see this before? How do I not see like the radicalism on both sides? And like earlier in life, I started off on the left as like, I don't say radical, but I was definitely like, I leaned left, just because of the social media and all these, like, especially during the Bush era, right? Like, oh, now we're going to Iraq for oil, and this war is a sham, and 9/11's an inside job, and blah 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 blah. That was a lot of the stuff the left was pushing way back in the day. And then now, like, you kind of move the needle to the right, and you grow your worldview, and you kind of understand and look at things from a different lens, and then you get sucked up into that other lens because you're curious, and then you kind of go a little bit too far to the other side, and then you start seeing, oh my god, I was a part of these people, and these people are hateful, and these people can be brainwashed, and whatever the narrative is for the left over the last 10 years. And then you kind of look at it from that lens. And then kind of when I started this channel, a little bit before that, I kind of did some self-reflecting and some soul searching, and like, why am I just dismissing one side? Why am I just like, all my whole life I've been over here, and then I moved over here, and then now I'm like, I want to be somewhere in between. I want to be someone who calls out the bullshit. I want to be someone who goes and can see the full picture of everything and call people out. And I think that's coincides with like critical thinking, understanding your algorithm on your timelines. Because if you're going to be radical on one way or the other, it could be MAGA, it could be far left liberals. You go down these rabbit holes, your algorithm is going to really reaffirm your beliefs, and you're just going to really soak up all that information, and it's going to reaffirm your lens and your opinions and things like that, without really giving you the context from people on the other side with some truths over there as well. And until you step outside your bubble, try to get back to more of a centered way of thinking and seek perspectives and seek to understand the other side, you're going to have people on both sides that are complete, like that you get sucked up into it. And then you find people that have your world belief that try to go onto your socials. And trust me, I've had people come on my socials and they claim that they're not radical, but I promise you, some of the people who need to hear this, I'm not going to call out my names, but the people who need to hear this, they are radical. They are people that are pushing narratives. They are brainwashed into thinking this one singular way. They are pushing this one. Hey, Kid Rock is a pedo. How could you watch that halftime show? Well, you didn't understand there's also Carrie Underwood. You didn't also understand there's other artists there that people were like, oh, God, hey, there's someone over here, this Turning Point USA event. They have all these artists that we like. We're going to go over there. Honestly, it's that innocent for some of these people. And when I look at some of my timeline, and there's a friend of mine that, again, I'm not going to call out any names, but he just said, okay, I'm going to go over to the All American halftime show. And then he decided I'm looking forward to like a country artist. And then this is someone I went to high school with. And there's another person I went to high school with. They commented on that about how can you dismiss the Bad Bunny culture? And then at the very end is like, kind of like, you're racist for, supporting Turning Point USA and for supporting Kid Rock and blah, blah, blah. And this person was like, okay, I came here for the two artists or whatever he kind of called out. But okay, that's fine. I can be a racist for that. And it's like, how do we get to that as a society? We take Turning Point USA and Kid Rock, we associate them together, and people that watch that, like, they push this like super hard. You're not one of us. How dare you listen to Turning Point USA? Now you're racist. Like, come on, what are we doing? Like, listen to yourselves. Listen to the narrative and what you're pushing in. When people say the left is radical, when people say like the left feels like they can just say and do whatever they want and have no repercussions for it. Look at all the riots. Look at like all the social medias. The second the liberals start calling names, it's okay. It's reinforced. It's something that's okay because people at the top are saying that it's okay. The modern day society is saying that it's okay, and they continue to get away with burning down, looting cities. And then when you got people on the right, when you can cite January 6th, those people, yeah, they should be arrested. I don't disagree. But some of those people are still in jail for going into the Capitol building. But when you have the Summer of Love, as they call it, and they're like destroying buildings and getting arrested for that, it's catch and release. It's like, okay, so why is one okay and one not okay? And then the second they get a little hostile on social media, it's dismissed. But when the right gets hostile on social media, it's like up in arms, and you're a bigot, you're a racist, and like the second you use a trigger word against somebody that's a liberal, which I think the right is more tame when it comes to being petty on the internet. But there are people on the internet that are on the right that are petty. I'm not going to dismiss that. I mean, there are some transphobes, there are some, homophobes, things like that, xenophobic people, not dismissing that. Some of them are on the right, some of them are on the left. Both parties have a lot of flaws and a lot of people in them that are inherently hateful, evil, whatever you want to call it. But going back to like being dismissive about the left versus the right. So it feels like there's this like culture war, and the left feels very self-righteous. And the more that I look at these narratives and the more that I see it on media and the more that I've like try to look at it from multiple lenses, it just seems like the left can do no wrong. They control the masses of the media. So they have like these talk show hosts that are completely left leaning. They have these, they have more networks that push the news to people, and your CNNs, your ABC, CBS, and then you can kind of go on a list. And then the right only has like one or two networks. They don't have the people inside of the movie industry that support them. If you go to any award show, you can listen to all of them are left leaning. And it's just like it reaffirms that left narrative that they are right. They have this self righteousness and that their worldview is correct. Like that's what it affirms without actually giving the full context, without actually seeing the needle being shifted, so to say. Because anything the right does, it gets you canceled. You're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a xenophobe, and people don't want to be associated with that. And it gaslights you into thinking that you have to think this way. It's like a hive mind. If you don't think this way, you're not one of us. We're going to attack you. And I feel like there's more people on that side and trying to push that narrative than there are on the right. Don't get me wrong. The people on the right are just as like those MAGA people they're just as hateful. Going back to, this whole left versus right debate, this Bad Bunny, everything we've talked about, it's kind of like I'm trying to break this down. And like, as I take a step back and I'm trying to look at things from an entire worldview, I think like it's like, why do we need to feel the need to go on in narrative control on social media, especially about something as tedious as a halftime show? Like we have to call out, like, think about this. If you're one of those people like, oh, Kid Rock is a pedo, listen to his lyrics. It's like, okay, yes, the lyrics are bad, not disputing that. But at the same time, like you listen to the messaging behind it, bad, get it. But then you defend other music. We already kind of talked about that. And then we talked about the Jay-Z versus Kid Rock stuff, like understanding the production company that hosts the Super Bowl halftime show. Okay, you dismiss that. Like you can't be self-righteous, but also have flaws in your narratives. And you don't see that. And you like are quick to attack the other side without like being cognitive of some of the things that are going on your side. But you dismiss it because it's your side of the aisle, and it happens on both sides, right? You dismiss some of the things like that cognitive dissonance that you're experiencing happens on both sides of the aisle, and then we're also attacking the other side without acknowledging that this Jay-Z guy is literally the same thing that you're accusing Kid Rock of. And it's like, okay, why aren't you upset about that then? Like, it's nothing against Bad Bunny. I don't think anything Bad Bunny did was negative. I think his message was good. I didn't listen to his halftime show, the performance. That's, subjective to you and objective to you. I'm not going to kind of critique any of the halftime shows. I'm not going to grade it. But just the narrative surrounding it and the talking points surrounding it and the people up in arms and just people attacking each other and going down these rabbit holes of just the toxicity behind the halftime show. And, and that part of it was my algorithm, but I wanted to seek it out. I was trying to understand both sides. And I went down some of the people that were defending Bad Bunny. I went down some of the rabbit holes defending Kid Rock. And like, again, this is about perspective. This is about understanding the whole situation. And I think the messaging, so combat hate with love, that was Bad Bunny, right? And the left, I don't think they can do that. I think they use that message, they convey that message. And then the second they're on social media, they just dismiss that altogether. When they're in front of ICE and all those they dismiss it altogether. When there's someone that's around them that doesn't have the same worldview, they dismiss that altogether. So it's ironic that this Bad Bunny person and what the left is defending, they're literally hypocritical to the message that they're trying to portray by going on these socials, by being protesting's fine, but when you get violent, come on, like that's hateful. And then for the right, I mean, it was a Turning Point USA halftime show was about kind of Charlie Kirk's legacy and, continuing his message, right? And his message was to have a dialogue. His message was to, don't get violent, don't push back, have a dialogue with people, try to change their worldview. And, if you don't get through with people, that's fine. Just be respectful when you do it. I'm not seeing that either on that side. I'm seeing people who, like I said, they're transphobes. They're making fun of Bad Bunny because he's wearing girls' dresses and things like that, and attacking LGBT communities and things like that. And that's not okay either. Again, that's the messaging behind both Charlie Kirk as well as what Bad Bunny was trying to do and trying to portray. Which again, I think the messaging on both sides are valid. However, like with this culture war, we kind of like ascend past those messages and like we feel self-righteous and virtuous where we have to go to the other side and be hateful or to not have a dialogue and be transphobe or whatever the right does versus the left does is what I'm trying to say. And it's very evident that people don't listen to the message. They would just rather get online and hate each other. And it's crazy that, when you take a step back and you take something like the halftime show and you kind of just sit back and just with your popcorn out going down, you watch the narrative all the way up to the halftime show. You let it play out, right? That's when I was eating. I kind of went and got a drink. I was go to the bathroom. I come back. I want to watch the game. And the game was a little bit of a snoozer. I'm not going to lie. There's some exciting plays in there, which was cool. But then you kind of like I went on socials just to kind of see the other side of that narrative, the other side of the halftime show. I will say I don't want to say, I was disappointed because again, people dismiss the messaging behind it. They don't try to understand combat hate with love. Not even 20 minutes later, you have people online that are just completely like off the rails, being hateful, calling people racist, accusing people of being pedo defenders. And it's like, come on, you can't even wait 20 minutes. You didn't listen to the message, what these people were trying to portray. And you would rather just dismiss that because the other side is wrong. And that's what it comes down to. Like you feel the other side is wrong. We need to call out these behaviors. We need to call out these people. Like, yeah, well then call out your side too. I think if both sides of the aisle just, hey, here's the line in the sand, clean up your shit first. And then you can focus on ours. Because if no side's perfect, if both sides were just like, hey, there's fraud in Minnesota, there's this going on in Minnesota, there's this going on in California, there's this going on in New York, like if or Illinois or Chicago, whatever the situation is, right? Clean up your shit first. Clean up your side of the aisle because you are not perfect. And neither is the other side. So then you can even go into like Texas. You can even go into other states like Florida. You can even talk about, the House of Representatives and the president. And you can say, clean up your shit first. No side's perfect. I get that. But if you're going to sit there and be hypocritical, and both sides are hypocritical, when you sit there and be hypocritical and point the finger to the other side and say they're wrong with having your shit over here have tons of flaws and it makes you a hypocrite, you have no room to talk. And I feel like these radical people dismiss their side. They dismiss the arguments that the other side's making for some of their people. They don't want to acknowledge that. They would rather just turn the focus to the other side. And then they want to be right. And they don't want to acknowledge the things on their side. You have more of an impact for the people on your side than you do on the people on the other side. You need to get people on your side to pressure these people to change, to display the behaviors that you want to see, to elect the people that need to represent you. Instead, we'd rather attack the other side and sit there and just call them out for being XYZ. Insert a name. This person is a kid diddler. This kid is a killer. You could go down the list of a whole bunch of different triggering words for any politician, have little to no evidence, and just kind of make anecdotal conclusions without having any concrete evidence. And that's where we're at as a society, is we just accuse without any sort of proof. You can infer some stuff. Again, going back to the Epstein files, I think trumping in there 30,000 times that's kind of telling. How close was he with Epstein? I have other questions. I need to see more. Same thing with some of these other people on the list. There's some left-leaning people in there as well. There's some celebrities. I mean, Lady Gaga was in there too. She was in the halftime show. Like, come on. What are we doing as a society? Clean up your shit first. If you're watching this video, clean up your side of the aisle first. Put the pressure on the people who need the pressure on your side. Acknowledge what the other side is saying to you and put that pressure on your lawmakers to change some of the things that you agree with, like the behaviors. Because I can promise you, they'll listen to your side more than they'll listen to the other side. Like the politicians, I mean by that. If politicians continue to get pressure from people in their voter base, you'll get things done. Look at the other side, look what they're doing, and ignore the things that we're doing. That's not working. And every single person that goes online to defend their side and attack the other side are the people that are they're enabling these behaviors. And until you take a step back, like I have and see the thing for what it is, like I have, you won't really understand that. You're just defending people because you don't want your side to be wrong. Because you're a prideful person, because you can't take that someone on your side of the aisle is whatever triggering thing, like a pedo or a killer or a murderer or a rapist or whatever it is. And I might get monetized for this, and I don't care. These are my words. These are my opinions. We have descended into this abyss in society where we defend these people who they don't deserve our recognition, number one. They don't deserve to be our representatives, number two. We are choosing between evil and evil at this point. We're choosing between people who are manipulative, who are sociopaths, who are narcissists. These people that we're electing, they placate to their voter base. And that's how you get these people attacking the other side, like this Bad Bunny versus Turning Point USA kind of stuff for the halftime show. They believe it. Everything that these people are telling them. They don't believe that their voter base or their side of the aisle does anything wrong. They can't admit one single flaw for anything that they can do. They just keep making excuses, and they can point the finger back to the other side. And it happens on both sides of the aisle. And until you take a step back, turn out, you got to unplug. You got to stop going down some of these rabbit holes. You need to just look at things from afar. Because the second you get wrapped into that stuff, you go down these rabbit holes and it reaffirms your belief because your algorithm is constantly telling you, you're right, you're right, you're right. Here, look at this, look at this, look at this. Dismissing the entire side of a narrative. And there are people who they will say, I'm not radical. I tend to be more moderate. No, you're not. If you're sitting there defending one side, not acknowledging the flaws on your side, you are by definition brainwashed. You're not moderate. You're not acknowledging the things that need to be happening in this country. You're not holding accountable the people that need to be held accountable on your side of the aisle. You're not going to create the change that you need because you're focused on the other side of the aisle that are both sides of the aisle. They cater to their fan bases, their voter bases, whatever you want to call them. You can call them fans because, I mean, it's almost like a cult because both sides are a cult. Let's just be honest. Because they can say and do anything they want and they can get away with it. And anything that these people at the top say, these influencers, these people that are all the way, that have that power, they have that influence, they're in the government, they have that power to say, oh, no, that's not what whatever the other side in the narrative from the other side is accusing them of, they defend it. They give them talking points. Those people take those talking points and they combat that online. That's a cult. And it happens on both sides. And then after they defend that narrative, they push back on the other side. What about this guy over here? And then they have some talking points and they have their own things that they to defend this politician, this actor, actresses, and they push it back to the other side. And it's just vicious cycle of what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? It's whataboutism. And nobody wants to acknowledge that their side is wrong or that their side is hypocritical. It's kind of crazy that we're at this point in the world. Like if you look at history repeats itself. Empire lasts about 250 years. Where are we at with America? We're close to 250. Yeah, we're 250. 1776. Yeah, we're literally at 250. History is repeating itself. Like you look at the Julius Caesar era. Look at you can go back to Greek and Roman empires. There's a lot of corruption that happened. People rebelled, revolted. We're getting to that point. We're the writing's on the wall. This is culture war. This is paradigm shift. We went from 2001, where we were the most united we were ever in a country. And then we go into 25 years later, we're at each other's throat, and there's no civil discourse anymore. There's no civil debates anymore. There's nothing that we can do as a society that'll bring us together because we defend our side without acknowledging the flaws in our side. Because we're too prideful. We're egotistical. And it's crazy. And I can't wrap my head around why people just defend people that don't even know they exist. They just care about your vote. They say all the right things because that has the same worldview as you, And once you go down those rabbit holes and you get that and get into that side hook, line, and sinker, you don't care what your side does. And that's the sad reality of it. So please, for the love of God, this isn't on Bad Bunny. This isn't on Turning Point USA. This is on us. We enable these behaviors. We don't want to be better as a society. We want to point the finger at the other side. We want to continuously always be right. We're too prideful of people. Until you set aside your pride, until you set aside a lot of your emotions and look at things objectively and try to find the truth in any narrative, we're not going to get anywhere as a society. We're not going to be unified as a country. It's not going to happen. And it's sad. So that's my TED Talk for today. I kind of got a little emotional at the end, but at the same time, like, needed to be said. Try not to fall into these narratives. Try not to push yourself to all the way toward one side or the other. Look for the objective truth. Have a dialogue with your neighbors. Have a dialogue with some of your people in your circle. Don't be radical. There's a lot of people that need to hear this message. There's a lot of people that need to understand they are the ones. They're the people that are accusing people on the other side of being brainwashed in an occult are the same people that are being brainwashed in an occult. And I have probably 150 to 200 people on my timeline that I can see that. And I'm not going to call out names, but most of them are left-leaning. And the people on the right tend to be more quiet. But when a world event happens, they get a little loud. And I have to kind of keep them in check too. So don't be one of those people. And I think I'm going to step away from kind of these narratives and things like that in politics. And next episode, I'm going to do maybe something horror related, maybe sports related to kind of keep it a little fresh. But this is something that's been happening in the world over the last couple of weeks. It kind of fits the narrative. This is one of the first times that I've actually been able to step outside of, the scenario without trying to have an opinion on it and just let it play out. And that's exactly what I use this for. To find the narrative on both sides, to see the truth within both sides, to help people understand what they're defending and call out for being hypocritical. Again, we're the Offsetting Opinion channel. We look for the truth. We call out the bullshit within the narratives, and we point to the flaws within their own hypocrisies. Thank you again. I appreciate you. If you agree with this message and you want to take God, I'm all flustered now because I'm emotional. If you want to continue to take this journey with me, please like, share, subscribe. I want to continue to grow my channel. Once we get to a certain amount of followers, I want to start doing some giveaways, give back to my community. So keep an eye on that, but we got to get to a certain amount of followers, and then I'll start doing some giveaways and things like that. So I appreciate everyone for your time today, and try not to get emotional, look at things objectively, and I'll see you in the next one.